Hello, everyone. So I want to start this teaching just with a little song. And what brought the song back into my awareness is I randomly came across this little pamphlet. It's probably not easy to see. You probably can't read Hebrew either. Tikkun HaKlali, which is written by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who I was just talking about recently. And this is just a series of I think it's mostly the Psalms, the Tehillim, that were put together. And the purpose of these prayers is for Teshuva, is for repentance. And there are many people in this world that will turn to these prayers when they need to really take inventory, when they need to look at themselves, when they're trying to heal something, when they're trying to become self-aware and to correct attitudes or behaviors. And it's a way of bringing us back on track, and I've never really said the whole Tikkun HaKlali, but I've always been aware of it as a young man. I've known about this. As a boy, I knew about this. And it's interesting because this is often said between the days of Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. Tonight begins Rosh Hashana, which is the new moon of Tishrei. And because the zodiac, the tropical zodiac, is different than the Hebrew solar lunar calendar, Tishrei sometimes aligns with Libra, and then this year it aligns with Virgo. So we start that today, and then 10 days later we have Yom Kippur, and these 10 days are called the days of repentance, the Aseret Dimei HaTeshuva. And I'll speak about what Teshuva is, because the word repentance is a word. It's a translation for the word Teshuva, which has such a deeper meaning. So I've been reflecting on this, and so this song comes from, there's a certain Hasidic sects in Judaism has a tradition to begin their prayers, to begin anything that they do, and any Torah study, any prayers, with this little intention setting, Hareini mizmen et lihodos lihalel ulishabeach bori, the yichud kudsha bori which is, behold, I prepare my mouth for the praising, the thanks, the worship of my Creator, for the attunement to my source, for the sake of the unification of the Holy One, the Holy Blessed One, and the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah, you could think of just the indwelling presence of the Holy, of the Ineffable. So, and I have a little song. I wrote a song with that prayer moving through it. So I'm going to share that prayer. Maybe I'll speak a little bit to just my thoughts of the transits now and how this reflects the idea of Teshuva. Hareini mizmen lihodos lihalel ulishabeach bori b'shem yichud kudsha bori b'shem yichud kudsha bori Hareini mizmen lihodos lihalel ulishabeach bori b'shem yichud kudsha bori b'shem yichud kudsha bori for the sake of the unification of the Holy Blessed One, the holy name. For the sake of the unification of the holy blessed one, the holy name. All is one. Unify you and I, the inner and the outer, the then and the later, and the lover and the hater. All is one. Life is hard and it's fun. If you're here, you're not done. Keep it flowing, keep it growing. To the music. Hareini mikavein esmi, lihodos, lihalel, ulishabeach es bori, b'shem yichud, kudsha shchinate, b'shem yichud, kudsha shchinate. Now your fears aren't real, they're just feels, keep it real. You are safe, you are pure, and this moment is your cure to the dream of separation. Feeling high, feeling low, yo, it never was so. You are more than you know, and there's more room to grow into the love, into the one love you are. For the sake of the unification of the holy blessed one, the holy name. For the sake of the unification of the holy blessed one, the holy name. All right. That's the first time I've shared that actually in any kind of public context. So grateful to do so. So Teshuva, the root of the word Teshuva is actually leshevet or shuv, which is to return. The word Shabbat also has that same root. The word sit, shave, has the same word. So it's interesting. The word to sit, the word to return, the word for the Sabbath, and the word that we use to describe repentance, it all has the same root, right? Leshevet, to sit, to rest. And we can think of it in a way as you're stopping, you're resting, which is also a turning, right? It's like I have this experience where when I'm resting, all the thoughts of the day and things that I've suppressed or negative emotions, negative feelings might arise in that space. There's something about restfulness where actually the uncomfortable content simultaneously emerges. It's interesting how a truly restful state is synonymous to a non-resistant state where we're also not distracting ourselves from all the things that maybe throughout the day we're not paying attention to, or throughout the months of our life we're not paying attention to. And we might live at a status quo level of being, but without really meeting some of the more uncomfortable content within us, we're not allowing for a possibility of a deeper dropping in, a deeper restfulness. And there's that teaching that we really, the task isn't to find love, but to find, locate all the obstacles to the presence of love, to the awareness of love. And this is a quote. It's not a quote. It's a paraphrasing of a quote from A Course in Miracles, which has also been ascribed to Rumi. Who, interesting, it's in the course, but for a long time it's been ascribed to Rumi, which is a quite fascinating thing. To meet, to become, to not resist, to meet, to look at all the obstacles to love. what that really does is it sets a stage where it qualifies there's love and there are the obstacles to love. There aren't two equal realities. There's truth and the obstacles to truth, which is a very forgiving and wonderful conception. So in a restful state, we have no choice but to face it. If we're going to be quiet enough, we're going to meet whatever keeps us from communion. So these days, these Aseret Yimei Teshuva, these 10 days of returning, are days of inventory, are days of looking at ourselves. And there's an interesting liturgy that on Rosh Hashana, Yikatevun, your fate is written. Yom Tzum Kippur, on the fast day of Yom Kippur, your fate is Chatemun, it's sealed. And I'm not going to go into all of that. I don't believe there's someone outside of ourselves judging us. Right? Judgment comes from inside of ourselves, and it's our choice to meet our suffering is in our own judgments, and we're not aware of most of them. We're not holding consciousness around the way we've been in relationship. I was reading in A Course in Miracles something really beautiful this morning, which spoke about we're really not afraid to look at our hate. We're afraid of what's underneath that, which I think is a fascinating thing. Like we're not afraid of our unworthiness. We believe it. We're not afraid of hate. We value it. We're afraid of love. We're afraid of who we really are, and it's because of an underlying belief in our undeserving. There's there's some sense of no, I don't want to look at I have this memory of sitting I was very young, and I went to a singing bowl meditation, and I was feeling a lot of negative emotion, and I sat down on the floor, lie down on the floor, and the vibrations were too intense for me. Like it brought up so much emotion, so much discomfort. I was filled with so much self-hatred. I wanted it to end. I wanted to get out of there. And I left the singing bowl meditation with just horrible feelings. What it's revealing is just the breaking of the sickness. We break a sweat, we get a fever when all that sickness that's actually been inside of us is starting to come out. And to not grab onto it, to not value it, to not become all contrived. I think we're all aware that this journey isn't always pleasant. It's not always easy. There are those teachings that say it doesn't have to be difficult, but then there's the reality that it is, because we come from a place of grasping. We come from a mental conditioning of grasping and striving, of valuing what is not real. But to remember that this internal process, the journey of repentance, is not an external, please save me, please forgive me. It's an internal meeting everything inside of ourselves. So let's look at some of the transits that are manifesting at this particular time. I do consider this time period a very holy and charged time, because there are so many people in the world that are and have always during this time given a lot of attention to inventory, to becoming internal. And I just see that this month in particular is just very it's very ripe for this internal process. This new moon's happening just in 8 hours from now or so. And I can progress it so we can see the exact moment of the new moon. More or less there. Notice Mercury here. This is interesting because Mercury enters the shadow. This is where Mercury will retrograde back to in about 6 weeks after retrograde. So in a few weeks, Mercury is going to go retrograde, and then it's going to go back to 10 degrees. So basically, interestingly, Venus is exactly where Mercury will go retrograde at. So from 10 degrees to 25 Libra, for the next couple months, Mercury is going to be in those degrees, starting today, moving over all of those points 3 times. what's going to happen? It's going to oppose Chiron, right? It's going to square Pluto. It's going to inconjunct Uranus. It's going to inconjunct Neptune. It'll also trine Jupiter. Opposition, squares, inconjunct. These are all strong aspects. And in particular, the stationing points being so close to Pluto, it tells me that we're, over the next few weeks, which beautifully coincides with these high holidays, and over these next few weeks, there is a process unfolding. We're becoming aware of contents and information that we don't have all the information yet. We are dealing with a great depth of psychological knowledge. And as Mercury is moving towards a retrogradation in square to Pluto over the next few weeks, it really speaks to our relationships, the content that's arising in our relationships, what we're learning about ourselves, and the things to become aware of. What is our story? What are we perceiving? Do we see hate? Do we see a world of fear? Do we believe Libra? What's Libra need? Acceptance. Are we available to accept others as they are? Do we feel accepted as we are? Mercury in Libra is actually about being open to learning something new. So when two people talk to each other, there's always going to be new information if we're listening, if we're open-minded. If we have fixed views, fixed ideas of who we are, what we should be, which equals judgment, there won't be learning, and there won't be a new experience, a new information, new context, new perspective, new awareness. We won't add to our knowledge of self. So there's a lot to learn right here, and I really think we need look no further than who is in our life. What are the important, meaningful relationships that are sort of showing up on our radar right now? To really look at ourselves, to really look at where our mind is. I feel this is a very important time, and actually consider that this retrograde is happening just at the foot of the mountain of all these planets going direct. Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, then Neptune, eventually Uranus. And Chiron. I mean, they're all starting one after another. Starting October through the end of the year, they're all going to go direct, which is going to speak to a lot of the work that we've been doing, a lot of the indefinite, ambiguity of the last couple months is a part of this journey of becoming self-aware of deeper content. So I feel this month is really about going deeply within, being willing to learn something new, being willing to really look at what wants to be seen. And in that sense, in the spirit of Virgo, getting back on track with our sacred work, there's a teaching here in the midst of all kinds of challenges and stresses that all is not lost. That's why I love this prayer that I started with, to start your day, to come back to, I devote this day to God. I devote this day to healing. I devote this day to Teshuva, to returning. And what do we have control over? We have control over our effort, which actually just points back to our intentions. We don't have control over the results. We don't have control over grace. Grace is something that is not in our hands. That's the Pisces polarity. I think a lot of this, in 2 weeks, we'll have the full moon. Mercury will be very close to Pluto. We'll have the moon in Pisces opposing the sun in Virgo. So it's actually going to be a very important time where a lot of the efforts that we're putting forth now will start to really deepen, and there's a deepening happening. So Hareini Mezamin SP, I devote my mouth, I dedicate my mind, I dedicate my body, I dedicate my day to do the best that I can. And there's so much more to learn. As long as we're here, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to unlearn. There's a lot of healing. So I just offer this blessing and this prayer for us that we can ground ourselves in the part of ourself that is essentially devoted. To know that we can still light the candle. We can start over, we can light that candle, because we're not going to get out of this, right? Time continues, time repeats itself. Time is cycling, lifetime cycle. This journey repeats over and over and over again for the sake of our own realization. And we can't control our destiny. We can't change our destiny, but we do have some control over our orientation to the path. And many spiritual teachers have talked about, there's certain things you can change, certain things you can't change. And I find one unanimous teaching is this function of free will. How we're choosing to be in relationship to our soul program, which really points back down to our intention to look inside and to do our work and to heal. Whenever I speak about healing, it's always about Teshuva. It's always about returning to who we essentially are. So just sending a lot of love and blessings and warmth and gentleness to all of us during this really powerful time of healing and return. And may our work also bring benefit to all of our relations and to one another. And may we have the clarity and the peace of mind, peace of heart to take the little steps that we're called to take, to do our part, to not worry too much about perfection, just to do our part, to do our work, and to honor the journey. Thank you all.